Hi, and welcome to Drupal Brief. This is an AI-generated brief of another video, podcast, or blog post. If you want to learn more about what's being discussed here, then please go check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at Drupal Forge. We would love to create more AI-generated briefs like this. Please contact Salim Lakhani on Drupal Slack or LinkedIn and let him know what else you want us to cover. Oh, and if you have not tried Drupal Forge yet, you're missing out. You'll be able to do twice as much in half the time. So go check it out. Okay, that's it. Make sure to click subscribe. And here we go.
Hey everyone. We're diving into something pretty cool today.
Yeah?
It's a Drupal community initiative that's trying to tackle the whole,
The developer shortage.
the developer shortage thing. It's called the Inexperienced Developer Fellowship.
It's kind of a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but also kind of intriguing, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can a developer be inexperienced and also a fellow?
Well, that's what we're here to explore. What's really interesting to me is how this initiative taps into a resource that's specific to open source contribution credits to solve a problem that's kind of universal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of industries are facing this.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so first things first, just to level set for anyone listening who might not be super familiar with Drupal.
Right.
Drupal is an open source content management system, CMS.
The big league.
The big leagues.
Okay.
So think The Economist.nasa. Those are Drupal sites.
Handling massive amounts of content.
Yeah, right. It's behind a lot of those big, complex websites that we use every day. So we've got this powerhouse platform, but we don't have enough people to build and maintain it. That's the developer shortage in a nutshell, right?
Exactly. And it has real consequences. I mean, it means slower innovation for the platform, websites that are harder to keep up to date and secure.
Right.
And ultimately higher costs for everyone involved.
So this fellowship, the Inexperienced Developer Fellowship, just the name itself already kind of highlights this challenge.
Exactly. It's acknowledging that experience barrier
Yeah.
that so many people hit when they're first starting out.
So who are we talking about here? Who are these inexperienced developers?
We're talking about folks who already have some Drupal knowledge. Maybe they've taken some online courses through, say, Drupal Easy.
Okay.
Or they've gone through the Drupal Open University. That's kind of like the Khan Academy for Drupal, free and self-paced.
Right.
But they haven't had the chance to actually work on real projects yet.
That's where the paradox comes in. Companies want experienced developers, but how do you get experience if no one gives you a chance?
Right. It's a classic catch-22.
Okay, so walk me through this fellowship. How does it actually bridge that gap?
Well, it all comes down to incentives. It encourages companies to take a chance on these up-and-coming developers by offering some pretty sweet perks.
Perks for both sides, right. I mean, for the developers, this is a paid internship.
Yes.
Which is fantastic.
A stipend for 160 hours.
That's enough time to really dig in and get some real-world experience under your belt.
Absolutely. It's not just a quick taste. It's a real opportunity to learn and grow.
And for the companies, what's their incentive to take part in this?
The Drupal Association steps in with a pretty big incentive, 250 contribution credits.
250, wow. Okay, so for those of us who aren't deep in the Drupal world, break down what these contribution credits are all about.
Think of them as Drupal currency. They recognize a company's commitment to supporting the platform's growth, and they can actually boost a company's standing on the contributor leaderboard.
So there's a Drupal leaderboard? That's pretty cool.
It is. It's like the Drupal Hall of Fame.
I love it. But I'm guessing it's more than just bragging rights. What's the real value of racking up these credits?
They unlock a lot of tangible benefits. Higher support tiers from the Drupal Association, more visibility in the Drupal community, even the potential to attract new clients who prioritize working with companies that give back.
It's like earning frequent flyer miles for building websites. Who wouldn't want to cash in on those Drupal rewards?
Exactly.
But it's not just about those tangible rewards, right?
No, not at all. There are a lot of intangible benefits, too. Participating companies get featured in case studies on Drupal.org, which is...
Oh, that's great exposure.
Exactly. And there's a structured process with forms, bi-weekly reports, and a final blog post from the fellow. That keeps everyone accountable and creates really tangible outcomes for both sides.
It sounds like a win-win all around. We've got the developers getting paid to learn, the companies getting recognized and boosting their Drupal cred. But there's a piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about yet, mentorship.
Right. That's a crucial part of this whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean, for inexperienced developers, having that guidance, that support from someone who's been there and done that.
It's essential.
It's essential.
Yeah.
But is that a big ask for the companies? Especially smaller companies.
It's an investment, for sure.
Yeah.
But the initiative recognizes that. They're developing resources and best practices to support those mentoring relationships.
So it's not just about throwing companies and inexperienced developers together and hoping for the best. There's actual support and guidance to make those mentoring relationships work.
Exactly. It's about creating the conditions for success, both for the individual and for the company.
Okay, so we've got inexperienced developers getting paid to learn, companies getting recognized and boosting their Drupal street cred. But what's in it for our listeners? Why should they care about all of this?
Well, maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, Drupal sounds cool, but I don't have the experience to break into that world. This fellowship is designed to change that. It's creating a pathway for people from all walks of life to launch a fulfilling Drupal career.
And it's not just wishful thinking. I mean, we've got real-world examples of this happening. Didn't I hear something about a truck driver who found his way into the Drupal community and ended up doing incredibly well?
You're talking about Matt Glayman. He has an incredible story, went from driving trucks to becoming a successful Drupal developer.
That's amazing. So someone can actually go from driving trucks to building websites for NASA. It's really inspiring, but also makes me wonder, is this program realistic? I mean, can it actually make a dent in a global talent shortage?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll dive into as we explore the fellowship's mechanics, impact, and some of the challenges it faces.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dig into those details right after this. Okay, so we've talked about how this fellowship can benefit both aspiring developers and companies looking to grow their Drupal teams. But I'm curious about the global implications. You mentioned earlier that this initiative could be particularly impactful in regions like Latin America. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. One of the things that makes this initiative so interesting is that it can have a real impact on leveling the playing field, especially in regions where companies might struggle to compete with, say, U.S. salaries when it comes to attracting Drupal talent.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're a talented developer in a region where salaries are generally lower, the allure of those big U.S. paychecks can be pretty tempting, right?
Exactly. And it can lead to what we call a brain drain, where skilled professionals are drawn away from their local communities to pursue opportunities in more lucrative markets.
So how does the Inexperienced Developer Fellowship help to address this? Can it really compete with those big salaries?
It's not about directly matching those salaries dollar for dollar. It's about creating a different kind of value proposition, one that resonates with both companies and developers who are invested in growing the Drupal ecosystem within their own regions.
So it's less about chasing the highest paycheck and more about building something meaningful closer to home.
Exactly. And the contribution credits play a key role here. They become a kind of equalizer, allowing smaller companies and those in regions with different economic realities to participate in a way that might not have been possible before.
So it's not just about attracting talent, it's about empowering local companies to nurture that talent and contribute to a thriving Drupal ecosystem within their own communities.
Right. And remember, Matt Glayman, our truck driver turned star Drupal developer.
Of course. His story is a perfect example of what you're talking about.
It is. It shows that incredible talent can exist anywhere, and that sometimes all it takes is the right opportunity to unlock that potential.
It's about creating those opportunities, those pathways for people to discover their passion for Drupal and contribute to something bigger than themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so excited about the potential of this fellowship. It's not just about filling a skills gap. It's about fostering a culture of mentorship, community building, and sustainable growth within the Drupal world.
Okay, I'm convinced this fellowship has the potential to be a real game changer. But let's circle back to this whole inexperienced developer thing for a moment. How do you even define that? I mean, what makes someone an inexperienced Drupal developer?
That's a great question. And it's something the initiative has put a lot of thought into. They didn't want to just come up with a definition on their own, so they actually went straight to the Drupal community for input. They conducted a survey to gather insights and established some baseline criteria.
Smart move. So the definition itself is rooted in the community's understanding of what it means to be a Drupal developer.
Exactly. And what they found is that experience isn't just about the number of years you've been coding or the number of projects you've worked on. It's more about having a solid grasp of Drupal's core concepts, its unique ecosystem, and the community that surrounds it.
So someone could have years of experience in other programming languages, But if they're brand new to Drupal, they'd still be considered inexperienced in this context.
Precisely. This fellowship isn't designed for seasoned developers looking to add Drupal to their skill set. It's specifically aimed at those who are just starting their Drupal journey, those who need that initial boost to launch a fulfilling career in this field.
So it's more about providing that crucial first step, that entry point into the Drupal world.
Exactly. It's about giving those aspiring developers the opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute alongside experienced mentors who can guide their development and help them navigate the complexities of the Drupal ecosystem.
All right, let's say we have someone who fits that description. They're passionate about Drupal, they've taken some online courses, maybe even dipped their toes into the community a bit. They land this fellowship. What happens next? What does their day-to-day experience look like?
Well, that's where the mentorship aspect becomes crucial. The hiring company needs to have a plan in place. They need to be prepared to guide this new developer, assign tasks that are appropriate for their skill level, and provide the support and feedback they need to succeed.
So we're not talking about throwing them in the deep end and expecting them to figure it out on their own.
Definitely not. It's about creating a supportive learning environment. It might involve things like updating existing modules, working on smaller, well-defined features, or even assisting senior developers on parts of larger projects. The key is to provide meaningful experiences that allow the fellow to learn, grow, and make genuine contributions to the project.
It's like a modern-day apprenticeship where you're learning the craft from experienced practitioners. But in this case, the craft is Drupal development.
That's a great analogy. And just like in a traditional apprenticeship, the mentor plays a critical role in shaping the fellow's skills and guiding their development.
And those meaningful contributions you mentioned, that's where those 250 contribution credits come into play, right?
You got it. Remember those.
Of course. Too good to forget. But remind me, what exactly qualifies as a meaningful contribution in this context?
That's a great question. And it's one that the initiative is constantly refining. It's not just about the number of lines of code written or the number of hours spent working. It's about the impact of those contributions on the Drupal project.
So, for example, a small but well-crafted patch to Drupal core could be considered more meaningful than, say, spending weeks on a feature that ultimately doesn't get used.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that contributing to Drupal goes beyond just coding. It could involve writing documentation, improving accessibility, or even helping to organize community events. The key is that the contribution benefits the Drupal project in a tangible way.
I love that it's so multifaceted. It recognizes that there are many ways to contribute to open source, and it values those contributions equally. But how do they ensure that the evaluation process is fair and unbiased? I mean, who decides what constitutes a meaningful contribution?
That's where the Drupal community comes in. The initiative relies on experienced community members to review and evaluate these contributions. It's a collaborative process designed to be as transparent and objective as possible.
So it's not a top-down decision made by a small group. It's a community-driven process that reflects the values and priorities of the Drupal world.
Precisely. And that's one of the things that makes this initiative so powerful. It's not just a program. It's a reflection of the Drupal ethos, collaboration, inclusivity, and a commitment to building something great together.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits for the fellows, the companies, and the importance of community involvement. But let's be real for a second. Not every company is going to jump at the chance to participate in this fellowship.
True. Some might be hesitant to invest the time and resources required for effective mentorship, especially if they're already stretched thin.
So what would you say to a company that's on the fence? What's the most compelling argument for them to get involved?
I'd emphasize that participating in this fellowship isn't just about altruism. It's about making a smart, strategic business decision.
Okay, I like where this is going. Break it down for me. How does participating in this fellowship benefit a company's bottom line?
Well, think about it this way. By investing in the training and mentorship of an inexperienced developer, you're essentially building your own talent pipeline. You're creating a pool of skilled Drupal professionals who are already familiar with your company culture, your workflows, and your projects.
So instead of constantly scrambling to find experienced developers in a competitive job market, you're nurturing your own talent from the ground up.
Exactly. It's a proactive approach to talent acquisition that can save you time, money, and a lot of headaches in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about playing the long game. But I get it. Mentoring takes time, and time is precious, especially for smaller companies that are already juggling multiple priorities. How do you convince them that this investment is worth it?
You're right. Mentoring does require a commitment, but it's a commitment that pays off in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Not only are you helping to shape a skilled developer who can contribute to your projects, but you're also fostering a culture of learning and collaboration within your company.
So it's about more than just the technical skills. It's about creating a positive work environment where people feel valued, supported, and empowered to grow.
Precisely. And let's not forget the boost to morale that comes with mentoring. It's a rewarding experience for both the mentor and the mentee, creating a sense of shared purpose and fostering a more engaged and supportive team.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about addressing the skills gap. It's about creating a ripple effect that strengthens the entire Drupal ecosystem.
Exactly. And that's what makes this initiative so exciting. It's not just a Band-Aid solution. It's a long-term investment in the future of Drupal. An investment that has the potential to pay off in countless ways for individuals, companies, and the community as a whole.
I'm totally on board with that vision. It's inspiring to think that something as practical as a developer fellowship can have such a profound impact. But let's shift gears for a moment and delve into a specific aspect of the fellowship that I find particularly intriguing, the use of case studies as a learning tool. Okay, so we've explored all these amazing facets of this fellowship, but how do we know it's actually working? Are we just talking about a good idea, or is it making a real difference? That's where the case studies come in, right?
Yeah, case studies, they're a crucial part of this whole thing.
They are, but I'm curious, what makes them so important?
Well, on a practical level, they help us track the progress of the initiative. We can see what's working well, what challenges are popping up, and how those challenges are being addressed.
So it's like a feedback loop, helping to refine the program as it evolves.
Exactly. But it's more than just internal evaluation. These case studies are meant to be shared with the entire Drupal community.
Ah, so they become learning tools for everyone involved.
Right. Think about it. If you're a company thinking about participating in the fellowship, wouldn't it be helpful to read about the experiences of other companies that have already gone through the process?
Absolutely. It's like getting a sneak peek behind the curtain. You get to see how it works in practice, what to expect, and maybe even avoid some common pitfalls.
Exactly. And it's not just for the companies. The case studies also benefit the fellows themselves.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, imagine you're a aspiring Drupal developer. You've landed this awesome fellowship.
Yeah.
But you're a little nervous, right? You're not sure what to expect.
It's a new experience for sure.
So you read a case study from a previous fellow, and you get to see what kinds of projects they worked on, what challenges they faced, what skills they developed.
It's like having a mentor in a document, someone who's already walked the path you're about to embark on.
Exactly. It can be incredibly reassuring and empowering.
Okay, I'm sold on the value of case studies, but let's be real for a second. Sometimes case studies can be a little, boring.
I hear you.
Dry, academic, all data points, and no personality. How do we avoid that? How do we make these case studies engaging and insightful?
That's where the art of storytelling comes in. It's not just about presenting the facts and figures. It's about capturing the human element of the experience.
I love that. So it's about focusing on the individual journeys of the fellows and the mentors, right?
Yes. We want to hear about their motivations, their struggles, their aha moments.
Those light bulb moments where everything clicks. It's those details that make the stories come alive.
Exactly. And we shouldn't shy away from the challenges either. Being transparent about the bumps in the road makes the successes even more meaningful.
It's like saying, hey, it wasn't always easy, but we figure it out, we learn from our mistakes, and here's what we discovered along the way.
Right. That authenticity makes the whole experience more relatable and credible.
It also fosters a sense of community, right?
Absolutely. By sharing those experiences, we create a network of support where everyone can learn from each other's successes and challenges.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all in this together. Okay, so we've covered the benefits for individual developers, for companies, and even for specific regions like Latin America. But let's zoom out for a moment and consider the bigger picture. What does the success of the Inexperienced Developer Fellowship mean for the Drupal community as a whole?
If we take a step back and look at the big picture, I think this initiative has the potential to be a real shot in the arm for the Drupal community.
Like a surge of energy, a catalyst for growth.
Exactly. It's about attracting a new generation of Drupal enthusiasts, people who might have been intimidated by the perceived complexity of Drupal in the past.
So it's about making Drupal more accessible, more inclusive, and more welcoming to newcomers.
Absolutely. And remember, Drupal's success depends on its community. The more people we have contributing, sharing knowledge, and building amazing things with Drupal, the stronger the platform becomes.
It's like that rising tide lifts all boats analogy. When the community thrives, everyone benefits. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This initiative is still relatively new, and there are bound to be some bumps along the way.
True. It's important to acknowledge that.
What are some of the potential challenges that could hinder the fellowship's progress?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is simply getting the word out.
Right. Making sure that companies are aware of this opportunity and understand the value of participating.
Exactly. And then there's the challenge of quality control. How do we ensure that fellows are getting meaningful mentorship experiences and making those genuine contributions that we talked about?
It's a balancing act. You need to have a framework in place to guide the process, but you also want to allow flexibility for both the companies and the fellows to tailor the experience to their specific needs and goals.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a constant process of refinement and adjustment, learning from each iteration and making improvements along the way.
And of course, there's the ever-present challenge of sustainability. How do we ensure that this initiative has the resources and support it needs to thrive in the long term?
Yeah, that's a big one. It's great to have this initial enthusiasm and momentum, but how do we keep that going?
It's about building a solid foundation, not just for the fellowship itself, but for the entire Drupal community.
Absolutely. And that, my friend, is where our listeners come in.
Bringing it back to our audience. I like it.
This isn't just a conversation for a select few. This is a call to action for everyone who's passionate about Drupal.
So what can our listeners do to get involved?
Well, they can start by asking themselves, what role do I want to play in shaping the future of Drupal?
I love that. It's about taking ownership and finding your own unique way to contribute.
Exactly. Maybe you're an experienced developer who's willing to mentor a fellow.
Yeah.
Maybe you work for a company that could benefit from participating in the fellowship.
Right. Or maybe you have ideas or insights that could help improve the program itself.
The possibilities are endless. The important thing is to get involved, to share your passion, and to contribute to the growth and success of this incredible community.
That's what makes open source so powerful, right? It's a collective effort, a shared journey where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and make a difference.
It's about coming together to build something truly remarkable.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Inexperienced Developer Fellowship.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. We've explored the mechanics of the program, the benefits for both developers and companies, and the potential impact on the Drupal community as a whole. But most importantly, we hope we've sparked a conversation, inspired some new ideas, and maybe even motivated a few of you to get involved.
Remember, the future of Drupal is in our hands.
So go out there, explore, experiment, and contribute your unique talents to this amazing community. We can't wait to see what you create.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep learning.
All right. What did you think? Did the AI-generated thing work for you? Let us know. Anyway, to close off this podcast, I just wanted to remind you that this brief was a fully AI-generated summary, and we take no credit for the original content. If you want more AI-generated summaries like this, then let us know. Contact Salim Lakhani on Drupal Slack or LinkedIn. By the way, we're automating the entire process from start to finish, so these briefs can be generated hands-free and on schedule. You want something else covered? We're happy to do it for you. This brief was brought to you by Drupal Forge. Drupal Forge is the new #1 platform to try, demo, and develop Drupal sites, and it is completely free to use. It is a community-supported nonprofit platform run by volunteers, just like yourself. Come join us.